and I was starving. I was like, damn.
Did you go get a shake?
No, I went to the grocery store and I bought a bunch of fruit.
Okay.
Fruit. So.
Yeah, these shakes have been really working for me. I'm telling you, I'm every day. Frank's like, you're not even missing the weekends. I said, no, because I'm down to like a good one full meal, appetizer. I mean, but I go to town when the meal is there. I go to, yeah.
So the window, and that's directly in front of you. Can you,
my window?
Yeah, your window. Can you like dim the lights?
Yeah, I can close the louvers. 1 second.
Yeah. They're like glowing. You look like an angel.
Let me know what it's.
That's great. You don't like her glowing like that?
Is that good?
Well, I would have to see it how it hits you.
Oh, I had my earphones. Is that good?
I would have to see it how it hits you. Sit back down. Yeah, that's better.
Much better? Okay, because that's coming in from the front. Okay. Hey, what's up, guys?
Hello.
Hello. How are you, Charles?
I'm well. How are you?
I'm good.
So, Rashauna, what shirt did you put on? Is it a Titles Indeed shirt?
Of course it is.
Ah! All right.
What city and state are you in? Or what market? Or I guess it's like or this question is for Jane, actually. So are you in Chicago or are you in?
No, I'm in Florida. I'm in Naples, Florida. I'm on the west coast of Florida.
Okay.
For those who don't know where that is, which I didn't know before I moved here, to be honest with you, Charles, it's on the west coast. We're on the Gulf of Mexico.
Okay, got it.
So, if you go to Miami, you would go all the way west and then north, and you'll hit Naples. We're in the middle of, I would say, Tampa and Miami.
Okay.
So we get all the heat and the humidity. I mean, it's like 98 degrees here pretty much all year round, to be honest with you. Well, that's a little exaggerated. Let's say about 93. And in the dead winter, it's like, I would say we hit about 85. Mm. We're warm all year round. We might get a few cold spells, a few days out of the year. But other than that, we're good.
I'm in Southern California. And so where you are is actually, it's further south, right? It's closer to the equator. Okay.
We're on the Gulf of Mexico. So when you think about the East Coast, you think about rough waters. When you think about the West Coast, you think about, more calm waters, higher temperature, and really white sandy beaches.
Nice.
Yeah. Cool. But I think your weather's better than ours. California.
Yeah. Awesome. We're going to kick it off. This is episode 108. So I'll kick off the intro, and then we'll have you kind of give like some background on who you are, and we'll start asking some questions.
Sounds good.
Alrighty. So this is the Thai Capital Millionaire Podcast. This is episode number 108. My name is Charles Oglesby, also known as Thai Millionaire, with Rashauna Scott, the co-host of the Thai Capital Millionaire Podcast. Thank you all for tuning in. The purpose of this show is to share the stories of successful African-American business owners and investors, because we want people to learn and hear about the stories of successful examples. We know they exist. We want you to be able to see more of them. We also believe that business and investing are the true keys to financial success and generational wealth. With us today, we have Miss Jane Bond. She is a real estate investor. She's in the Florida area. I'm not sure if she's investing in the Florida area, but we will learn more about that as we talk to her more. But welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes, I am in the Florida area. I'm in Naples, Florida, and I just explained to you guys where that's from. As far as investing in Florida, I have invested several years here of my life, like a good 10 as a real estate agent. And the market is good here. For those who don't understand this market or know it, it's a niche market.
Really?
So yes. What do you mean by good?
When I say good, a lot of realtors, when they get their license, they really don't know, and I'm talking about young realtors, even novice realtors, they really don't know their market. And then they get a wake-up call one day and they think, oh, maybe I'm in the wrong market. Maybe this is not where I'm supposed to grow. And then they start looking at other markets. So my market being different and being a niche is and I happened to fall into this market. I didn't know this market. Trust me, I came from Manhattan. This market is different because this market is a very wealthy market here. We are, I would say, one of the wealthiest markets in the country per capita. This is where millionaires of America, not even millionaires now because of, our SALT tax. This is where billionaires have come to lay their hats down. And we're only 16 miles long. So that's why our market is so different to several markets. We're a very small niche market here.
Right. Can you talk to us about what life was like growing up and then also kind of like your early career?
That would be careers. Life growing up, I came from a family, a large family, 5 girls, not including myself, so 6 girls and 1 brother. And life growing up was fun, family, support, understanding. And we lost our father many, many years ago, I would say in 1987. And my mom was left with all her children. So we kind of supported her and stood behind her and made sure she was okay for her life. So growing up, I had a lot of support, I had a lot of love. Even though we were poor, I didn't know we were poor until I met some other people, to be honest with you. And we just had a really tight-knit family, a big family and tight-knit. And to this day, we are the same way. So in even the extended family, even though some of those seniors have passed on, we were always really tight and leaned on each other. I mean, we grew up in the same house and same mother and father, but we all didn't turn out the same. So, and I know that goes for several households, but I think the foundation of what we learned as far as watching out for each other and supporting each other stayed with us. That was instilled in us. As far as, moving forward and going out into the world, doing what you're supposed to do, that's a different story.
Mm-hmm.
And so as far as earlier careers, what does that look like?
Earlier careers. My first job, a true job that I ever had was a flight attendant, which I absolutely loved. It was all about, the destination for me. And realizing that I didn't have a boss up in the air, I just started doing anything and everything I wanted to do. And I met a lot of people that kind of, put things in my head about entrepreneurship. And I realized 2 years into my career as a flight attendant that I had a, part-time job with full-time benefits. And I started looking in other directions, saying to myself, okay, I need to take advantage of this. And I realized that being up in the air servicing people was not where I wanted to end up. So I started thinking about the next move. And I realized, okay, I'm traveling around the world. I'm seeing all these things that I've never seen in my life before. I'm understanding I'm sitting with people whereas though I wouldn't even be invited to the table if I wasn't a flight attendant. That was a huge light bulb that went off in my head too, because I thought, no, I want to sit here with substance. I don't want to sit here because I can just fly here. I want to sit here and contribute and be a part of what's happening and not just the pretty face at the table. Mm-hmm. So, and just graduating from college, I thought, okay, I got enough brains to do this. How can I parlay this job into a business and leave this service industry right here?
Okay.
Not knowing that I was still going to be servicing people, to be honest with you, but on a different level.
Right.
So I decided once I realized what quality meant versus quantity, and I mean that in the sense across the board in every word, furnishings, architecture, art, people, everything, I decided to go into interior design without even knowing anything about it. Mm-hmm. But I just started reading and, talking to people and putting it in my head that's who I was. That's what I was going to do. And lo and behold, I got my shot. Mm-hmm. So I became an interior designer and left the airline.
Okay. So growing up, so where'd you say you're from?
I'm from Philadelphia. Grew up, born and raised in Philadelphia. Left Philadelphia, I would say back in the late 80s, and started traveling around the world. Lived in Paris, lived in Venice, Last stop from there was New York City, stayed in Manhattan for 15 years, and then came to Naples. And that's where I'm from.
One of
Always the brotherly city of love.
One of the things you said that I think is really important is you went from one service industry to the next service industry. And a lot of people, for the listeners, like business in a lot of ways is service. And so the more people you service, the more money you make. The larger transactions that you service, the more money you make. And so I think that we shouldn't really turn our nose up so much at service. But as long as you're being compensated well for that service, there's a lot of value and a lot of wealth that could be accumulated by helping other people, because that's really what, in my opinion, business is you're helping people. It's like we just had on the last show, that last conversation.
Oh, absolutely. I'm a firm believer, Charles, and God promotes those who promotes others. And I think that's the movement that's happening right now in our society, and especially on the social media platforms across the board. I mean, when I said servicing, meaning up there in the sky, I meant servicing people, being hand to tray. Yeah, that's all well and fine. But when you dream of bigger things for yourself and your mind, and not to offend anybody, because let me tell you, I enjoyed that. I enjoyed that job. But like I said, the light bulb came on when I knew I could utilize that at the time. And moving into a different service, that level of service that I was giving as an interior designer was truly bringing me much more income. And to be honest with you, taking a 360-degree look at everything, my life has continued to be nothing but service. And I relish in it. So when you speak about service, it depends on the service that you're giving.
100%.
It's not always about the money, it's the service too. And if you're good at what you do, the money will follow it. It's the level of service that you give, and that's customer service all the way through, no matter what you do, even what you're doing now, servicing your customers with people like me and Rashauna Scott on your show, giving them that information. So I definitely get it.
When did you make the transition into real estate?
I made the transition into real estate, I would say in 2000 and maybe 2001 or 99, when I had moved to New York, and I decided I was an interior designer, and I thought coupling up real estate with that interior design background was going to make me move even closer to my goals. And I dabbled in it for a couple years in New York, did well, enjoyed it, and then met someone, one of my clients in interior design, who asked me to do some work for them. And that's how I went into my next business, which was entertainment management. Again, service business. And it's not easy to manage people. So I'm sorry, Rashauna?
But the checks got bigger.
The checks got bigger, and that's why the service is so good. So that young lady said to me one day, Jane, and actually I was working for her husband at the time, because most of my interior design clients were professional football players. And she asked me, could I do some business for her? And I said, what are you talking about? And she said, entertainment. And I said, okay, I don't know if I know anything about that business. And she turned to me and she said, Jane, it's all the same shit. It's business. And I went, oh, okay, I can do that. And I went into entertainment management. And not to say that I didn't capitalize on my interior design, because after I became an interior designer, I didn't feel like I had arrived. So I went back to school and I got my interior design degree from Parsons. At the same time working, from 7 to 4 in the morning. So it never stopped. I just kept pushing and pushing and pushing. And once I got into management and understood what it meant to manage people, that was something completely different too. So it's all service. And like I said, looking back on everything, it all has come to fruition with real estate, being able to couple that up and give people the best service I can as a real estate agent.
I know Rashauna's thinking of a question, but I don't want us to leave this topic because it's something I've considered, and it's the idea of entertainment management. I'm in Los Angeles. We have 2 basketball teams, 2 football teams, 2 baseball teams.
Oh, yeah.
I think hockey teams. And I have a lot of friends. I have a law degree. So I have a lot of friends who are like, we should start our own sports agency. We should manage this talent. How do you get clients, and how do you build an entertainment management company?
Well, thinking back on that, the way it worked for me was I was with, like I said, I was with this young lady and I was working and I just kind of wanted to be an agent because I really didn't know what I was doing. I'll be honest with you. And no matter what I do, I really never know what I'm doing. I just do it.
Right.
I just start executing whatever I can to get the job done, to get to that goal. Mm-hmm. So what I did was I put an ad out on, I'm not even sure if it was Craigslist or something they had out there on social media at the time. And this was, we're talking, I don't want to date myself. I don't want to date myself here. We're talking 2000, 2001, because I started transitioning into entertainment management. And I thought, how can I capitalize off this? I'm liking what's happening here. So my partner and I at the time, we put an ad out and we went to the movies and we did an all call, a call to action, actors, models, recording artists, co-host. If you're looking for management, inbound management is here. And we went to the movies and we came back and we had like 3,000 inquiries. I thought my computer was going to break at the time.
Wow.
And I wasn't computer savvy. So once we started getting bags and bags of mail and we started looking at people's talent, watching videos, having them come into the office, talk to us. And then we would just pick people that we thought had the best talent. Mm-hmm. And then we would shepherd them out there. I mean, it's a certain service they call the breakdown service. And if you talk to any entertainment manager or agent, they'll share with you that breakdown service comes through LA every morning telling you what the gatekeepers are looking for. So at that time, I had become a gatekeeper once I took on higher celebrities. Mm-hmm. And actually, those people talk to each other. And they need managers. And managers' jurisdiction and legal protocol is completely different from agents. So you definitely would have to get a license for it. Mm-hmm. And if you wanted to be an agent, you would have to belong to a franchise for 10 years. And I didn't do any of that. I became a manager. Now, back in those days, it was a little bit different. I could walk onto, the studio's grounds and look for someone or talk to someone. And actually, Lee Daniels was just leaving management, going into production and directing. And I happened to go to a forum where he was speaking, and we spoke about things, and he started sending me some of his people because he was leaving management. So it was, right time, right place, a little bit of luck and a lot of hard work, because it became harder and harder and harder, but I was moving in the circles that I had to be in to get the right talent. And I ended up, repping people like Nigel Barker from America's Next Top Model and Dia Davenport from the Brand New Heavies. I was very instrumental in bringing them back together. They were big in the 90s, that kind of funk soul music, and I brought them back together with English band and American, and we brought them back together in America, and we started touring with Macy Gray. It's just a rippling effect. Once you're in it, you just keep moving.
Right. And
you know how that works. Once you have that momentum, the skies start opening up. And you just move forward to it. And then you start showing up, different shows, different auditions. People start coming to you because now you're a name. And when I started in management, there weren't a lot of African-American women in management. And I would always get, "You're the manager?" And I would think to myself, wow, what does that mean? What does that mean? Am I the manager? And people were really surprised to see that it was me, a Black female, repping these people. Mm-hmm. And it was always someone that was the opposite of me.
Mm-hmm. Nice.
So, yeah.
So I want to fast forward.
Okay.
So obviously, so you grew up, and you were exposed to so much at an early age, flying all over the world, having conversations with people from all over the world, entrepreneurs, who kind of sparked that fire in you.
Absolutely.
And then you started working for yourself, and you've been an entrepreneur.
Never look back.
Never look back.
Never look back.
So that's been, I don't.
I've been an entrepreneur. Okay, I've been an entrepreneur for about 30 years. Never look back. Wow. Never look back. I couldn't imagine doing anything else, to be honest with you, Rashauna. I have my own time. I can give my own time to my family. I can give my own time to you. I mean, I can sit here now. I'm not in a rush to talk to anybody or do anything. And that's what freedom, that's what happens when you own your own schedule and your time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, you're the commander of that.
Yeah. And so present day success, real estate success. So you've been awarded record breaking.
I'm so sorry.
Okay. We good?
We're good.
I'll edit it out.
Okay. So in terms of real estate success, you've been awarded a record-breaking $1 million agent. So what does that mean?
That means I became a top agent in my market, and I broke the record, period, here in Naples. I sold the largest penthouse on the sand here in Naples, Florida for $18 million. Wow. And that changed my career. That actually changed the trajectory of my career. I mean, I was selling properties, anywhere between $1 million to $10 million. But when I broke the multi-million-dollar level, that was something completely different. And nor did I understand what was happening at the time. I just thought, okay, I got a multi-million-dollar properties. I got to sell this no matter what. It's one thing to get them. It's another thing to sell them. Mm-hmm. And when I broke that record, it was like, press came from everywhere. I had no idea I was breaking the record of Naples, because there are properties that have been sold here for much more than that, 48 million. We just had a property sell for 48 million on the beach, and they tore it down. And that property was absolutely stunning. This property was the largest penthouse. It was a condominium on the beach. It was 13,698 square feet in total, and 11,698 square feet under air. So this was the largest penthouse in all of Naples that had ever been sold. And I broke that record. And trust me, I was very happy to do that. And that's what success looked like to me at that time.
Okay.
Wow. And so how does it feel like coming down from that?
I don't think I ever came down from it. I just kind of relished in it for a very long time, and I still do, because a lot of agents, young agents, always ask me about breaking into that market. And I have to say, I didn't break into that market. I grew into that market. I came from selling condominiums under $100,000, and by no means did I come from a home that cost $100,000, So the condos that I sold from day one of being here in Naples, and the market had already crashed at the time, I had to climb, scrape, beg, to sit open houses, and to really understand not only the market, the people that I was dealing with, because this is a second home market. So I never left that feeling. And that was a lot of work. I'm not going to say I was excited and happy. I never celebrated that either.
Right. I
just kind of stayed there, understanding that, okay, now that I have done that, I have to repeat that. Right. It's not, you break the record, you have to keep up the record, right. And what I realize is that, those properties don't come every day, and they don't sell as fast as the rest of them. I mean, it took me a good 9-10 months to sell that property. Not everybody's walking around with $18 million in their pocket. And then it came the transaction itself. That particular customer, I had the seller. That particular buyer walked away from that deal 4 times. So you can only imagine the up and down, and there was some fear to that, because here it is, I had that listing for a certain amount of time, and it was about to expire. So my thought was, I got to get this sold no matter what, because the person that gets it after me is going to win from my work, from my hard work. So I need to get this sold, because I've worked hard for this, and I've pushed a lot of marketing on it. And it taught me about marketing too, because at the time, a lot of people weren't doing video, and a lot of people weren't speaking on their own properties. And one day I just came up with this idea. I'm gonna walk through this property and tell them what has happened here. Because I understood what I was looking at. I understood the quality and what was put into the place. So I had to walk through the place and really make it shine. And the funny thing is, the person that bought it, the first thing they said to me when they met me is, I feel like I've known you for years. I've watched that video 100,000 times. And they were actually some of the first people that came to see it the year I put it on the market. So they came back 10 months later and bought it. And Charles, just to share with you the type of properties we have and the type of market we have, our market is pure cash, pretty much. We close in 10 days on properties like that, cash.
Wow.
So I can tell you, I've only done this year one financing deal. So this market is a little bit different. It's a cash market.
Right.
And we have big real estate here. A lot of people compare us to Miami, but Naples, we have properties that sit on the market for a few days, a few months, but not a few years. And we have properties that are anywhere from 10 million to 88 million to 92 million, and they sell. Whereas though Miami has these same properties and they don't sell. Ours sell. It's a difference.
How are you getting the clientele to purchase these properties when they're so expensive and they're buying them in cash?
Well, it's your marketing also. I always tell people the deal is, when you're a real estate agent, if you're a listing agent, if you're a listing agent, you're going out there presenting yourself. You're going out there sharing with them what you're going to do, what that plan of action looks like to you for them to get their home sold. Mm-hmm. And if your plan of action is not on point, they're not hiring you. Mm-hmm. And the guy behind you, if his is or hers is, that's the person they're going to take. And hopefully you have a track record. And I always, the conversation I have with Rashauna sometimes is, each level the conversation changes. And you as a realtor, you must do your homework. You cannot walk into a $10 million house and not know what you're looking at. Mm-hmm. And then you need to have that conversation with those clients who you have to understand they're well-traveled, they're well-spoken, and they're well-financed. So you have to be able to hang with all three of them when you get in front of that client. Yeah. One might sit there and ask you, where do you summer? So it's a rhythm with all of these high-end markets, mm-hmm. and they're looking for successful agents to work with them. And some of us, we get our shot. I mean, you get lucky. I mean, I got lucky the first time. My first $1 million listing, my first sale was $3 million. And it came from another agent who referred me because they couldn't be bothered. But to me, $3 million buyer was like, wow. And I worked hard for that. It took me 9 months to find them a house, and they were very analytical. Mm-hmm. So it depends on the personality of that buyer, seller, also, and you matching it when you go in. Awesome. So, and your marketing is so important as far as reaching that clientele, because they're very educated today.
Right.
So have you had challenges as a Black woman in your market?
Not that I know of. I never let that get in my head. Mm-hmm. Once that's in your head, then, that takes you somewhere else.
Right.
And funny enough, I'm pretty much one of 2 Black women that are here in Naples, and the other Black woman I taught. So if I let that get in my head, I'm in trouble. And I think I've come a long way and done very well for myself by not letting that get in my head. I don't think anybody should let the color of their skin get in their head. What they should let get in their head is their skills.
Right.
If you have the right skill set and you know how to execute that, that can't bring you nothing but excellence. Am I correct?
I think Oprah said something like that. She said, okay. Oh, man, what was her quote? something about like greatness is never pretty much discriminated against. So focus on being great.
Focus
on being excellent.
Yeah, because once you do that, you don't look behind you, and you're not thinking about what they're talking about as far as your skin color. And one thing I have learned also, if you're yourself, if you're just being your natural born Black self, people are going to love you anyway. If you start pretending, that's when they're going to start peeling it back saying, oh, wait a minute, let me peek behind here. That's not the person I know. Mm-hmm. But as long as you are being you, you can go far with that.
I like it.
Because there's nothing like authenticity. You can go real far with that. So I think, yeah.
Yeah, because I think authenticity has, in some conversations, this becomes so cliche, but I think it's important, especially coming from you and being able to speak to the younger generation, that it's okay to show up in spaces where you need to be yourself.
Absolutely.
You have to be yourself. You have to be authentic. And I think in some cases, like, we think that we have to speak a certain way or dress a certain way in order to show up and get the business, or like that a certain look or a certain persona is a description of success.
No, that's not true at all. You're absolutely right. I think when you're being yourself, and especially someone like you, Rashauna, I mean, when I first met you, the first thing I thought in my mind, my God, this girl has a lot of questions. I mean, and you were yourself, and the first time I met her, Charles, I'll share this with you, and spoke with her for 3 hours. I was really blown away by this young lady. And I said to her when I was leaving, I said, if I ever had a daughter, I would want her to be you, because the way you shine and the way you open up, and you're not afraid to ask those questions, because if you don't ask, you'll never know. And that's what I mean by being your authentic self. You need to open up and let people know that, you need some answers too.
Right.
How do you move forward without those answers?
Right.
And how do you move forward with not, taking that chance to even pick up the phone to call someone? Because you never know who's going to answer. Mm-hmm. So, showing up, the real you, I think, is the best policy. Yeah. Because people give you a chance just on that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So we have a lot of investors that listen to the show. And you shared earlier that you have some experience in investing in real estate. Can you tell us what that was like?
When I invested in real estate, I did a couple flips of my own. And of course, I did what most people do, stay close to home with it. I went back to Philadelphia because I knew Philadelphia. I knew my mom's house. I felt like she had great bones in her house, and her neighborhood was a decent place to start investing. So I did flip a couple of houses there. But, fast forward in my life now, as far as real estate, I haven't invested much. But like I said, it's this movement going on social media, and I'm checking everything out, and I'm thinking about, the money that you have sitting, or, just not collecting any type of interest. And you're saying to yourself, okay, now I've made these coins. It's time to put them into place where they're going to keep me accustomed to my lifestyle that I have created for myself. And not only that, it's kind of like life insurance, It is. When you're losing one partner and your life might change, which my life would change, there's always that cushion. And to me, that cushion is not just having that cash. It's about having, something tangible more so, because that cash just goes like this. We start utilizing it, do anything we want, go where we want. Next thing you know, you don't have it to invest. So I'm taking a couple pages from your notebook, Ms. Scott, and I'm investing, and I'm investing in Chicago.
That's cool.
So,
yeah, good.
And I like doorsteps. I don't like one step. I like a few doorsteps.
Right.
So I think that means a lot to me.
So you mentioned this movement that you see taking place. Tell us what your thoughts are about the movement. What is it that you see?
I'm a little older than you guys. Right. And I'm always looking to learn. I'm like a sponge, anything I can learn and understand and pretty much articulate back to others, to be honest with you. And I share with people, I scroll through Instagram and I'm seeing young folks and folks, period, just like going for it, out there, pushing it, talking about generational wealth. I mean, nobody talked about that when we were kids. Talking about investing in property, talking about understanding what it means to partner with someone and put some trust in someone to keep moving forward to whatever goal you want to get to. Talking about our culture and the positive lights. I mean, it's like somebody shined a huge spotlight on us as a culture and said, you know what, get it together. And guess what? Everybody's taking that to heart. People are coming out of the woodworks, talking about investing, educating, talking about women's rights, talking about family. I mean, everything that they can, laws of attraction. I mean, anything they can to get you to be positive, to keep moving forward to any dream, any goal you have. It's out there for you. And the people that aren't listening, that means they're still listening to, the music and going to buy the bags and the shoes and all of that. But this movement is strong and favorable, especially to our culture. And it's a necessity, and having these conversations are so much needed for people. And things that you're doing, Rashauna, you also, Charles, all of this is necessary to allow our people to know that, there's support out here. The how, everybody's asking the how too. Well, now you know how. Now you know how. Now we're bringing it to them. Now you know how. And what you have to do is execute to get to that level. Because even though they tell you how to do it, you still have to execute it. And if you don't take on that and commit to it as far as yourself, then nothing happens. Absolutely. But this movement is strong and forceful and in your face. Mm-hmm. And it's amazing. And there's so many young people out here getting their education and understanding that this is not the time to play now.
Right.
So that's the movement I see, and it's strong. And you guys are at the helm. I mean, please.
Yeah. So you did the flips in Philadelphia. Can you talk to us about how you were able to do those successfully?
Like I said, understanding where I came from and the neighborhood I grew up in, I kind of understood how the houses were built because they were a little more solid than what they were building after that. Mm-hmm. And I took my interior design background also to understand walking into the house, feeling and knowing the bones of the house and looking at them saying, okay, I could work with this. These have good bones. Then I would bring on a contractor, a general contractor, have him come in and look at, everything else as far as electric, plumbing, and so forth. And that contractor came through a good referral. So I trusted him and we built up a rapport and he became the guy. And I only did 3 flips. He became the guy he was my go-to contractor. Mm-hmm. And he was really good. And I had him gut out one property, go in and, he had the plumbing, he had the electrical part, he had all the elements I needed to get that house back into shape. Mm-hmm. And I would come back and check on it and see what was going on. And of course, have an inspection after he did the work and put it on the market, look at what was on the market, what I could price it for. And that's what I did.
Nice.
And were those financed or were those cash deals?
For me, as far as how I did it from equity. I did it from equity out of my home. I used my equity and put it into one house, sold that house, paid back the equity, took the rest of the money, put it into the second house. So I just kept rolling the money into it, and a lot of people get afraid of utilizing the equity. It's funny you mentioned that because I was thinking about my mom today and I was like, her house is paid off. Why don't I take all of her equity and buy her something else? Mm-hmm. But, it's kind of hard to talk to folks that are much older than you. They're set in their ways. So they don't know what you're talking about when you're talking about taking equity out of their home. All they can think of is I'm going to have a big mortgage bill when I don't have a mortgage now. So, that's a little bit different. But that's what I did. I just kept rolling the money into other properties.
Right.
And then my business called for me to be there. So once I sold the last property, because I remember one property I bought for like $55,000, I put maybe 23 in there. And I remember selling it for 140. I was like, and when you think about those numbers and you're like, well, I could have kept that money in the bank, or I would have just left that money sitting in my, into the house. But I thought, as long as I can keep paying this equity back and utilizing the profit to keep rolling, I was good.
Right.
And that's how I started doing flips and loving it. And then, the whole psychological part came from me saying, okay, the only way these homes are going to sell and sell quickly is if you put your stamp on it. If you are able to live in this home and this is, you're good with the way you're designing this home out or fixing this home up or putting whatever, appliances or things that you want in here. If it's good enough for you, it's good enough to sell, Jay.
Right.
Because you know who you are. So, and my mom was doing it with me, which is funny. She came right along with me. She was right in there, hanging in there with me.
I know Rashauna's going to say something, but you said a few things I want to touch on. And one is that like a lot of your skill sets and your prior experience allows you to do what you're doing today. And that's what I think is so important. It's like whatever situation you're in, do something, because that experience is going to be able to kind of carry into whatever you do 5 years, 10 years, 15 years from now.
Absolutely.
Is that your mom was participating in what you were doing. And I always tell people that like business isn't just about you as much as it's about your community. And so we were just talking to somebody else and she was like, yeah, my mom participates in my business. And so it's great that we can create these things that don't just save us, but they save others around us. And so that's why I always encourage people to get into business and to invest, is because it amplifies you. It makes you become bigger than what you would be if you were just clocking in, getting your paycheck, because a paycheck is like a one ratio.
Yeah.
I love it.
A paycheck is one dimensional.
Right.
You get your paycheck, you go home. You don't think about the rest of the world. But it's not, it's not about that. It's about getting that paycheck and saying, okay, so what can I do with this? How is this going to make me better? How is this going to help me feed my family even more?
Right.
Because that one paycheck, all you can do is slice it in a few ways. Once it's gone, it's gone.
Right.
And you got to wait to spend another 40, 45 hours, 48 hours, or whatever it takes you to get that same paycheck. Well, I always wanted a bigger paycheck each time I got it. So that was something different. And I just have an entrepreneurial spirit. I came from a family of entrepreneurs. My father retired my mother. My mother was an LPN, and my father retired her and bought her a bar. So I grew up with bars and nightclubs. And once he retired her from going out there, nursing people, which that was her passion. My mother loved being a nurse. She always wanted to, she was an LPN, then she became a registered nurse. And he retired her 2 years after she became a registered nurse. And that was her dream, to be a registered nurse and hopefully one day be a doctor.
Yeah.
And he said, well, no, you can't go here and, doing the work you do all these hours coming home this time of night. Why don't I just give you this? And he gave her a bar. And she flourished from that day on. She never worked another day in her life. That she only worked for herself. And when he passed, that's when she was good.
Yeah.
He left her good. We had to make sure everything was in order, but she didn't have to go out there and stand on anybody's bus stop and wait for them to pick her up to go to this job.
It's so funny because that's my goal. My goal is to use business to retire my wife. But what's so interesting is I thought I was just making this up. I didn't know that it's already been done. I think that's why this meeting is so important.
Yeah. I mean, you in your mind, there has to be somebody you want to help, come forward with you. I mean, I always say, pass the baton. Somebody's behind you running, pass that baton, because you got to give back, And when he retired her, I thought, wow. And we owned our own business. I thought, wow, we own business. And that's what my dad only went to the 3rd grade. But he understood he had to make enough money. He had kids. He had a wife. He had to make enough money to send us all to school, to take care of us, to feed us. We were there with our forks and knives waiting to eat. So we all had to eat at the same table. But he retired my mom, and that was the best thing he could ever do for her. And I watched him go from, he had an oil business, a fuel oil business, and he was such a loving man. He would give oil to people that couldn't afford it, you know, and my mom would get on him and saying, you know, we still need to eat. Yeah. So, you know, from there, he went into the bar business. He met someone and they shared with him he could make money this way. And he went into the bar business then.
I like it.
So, yeah, that's how we started. That's how I became an entrepreneur, because I knew that they had their own schedules. They were making money, you know, and it all looked good to me at the time.
Wow. So you mentioned, you know, the necessity in passing the baton. So why do you think in our community, it seems like the baton gets dropped?
That comes from within. That's that energy and foundation that has been planted in you. You know, it's like your relationship with money is the same thing as your relationship with what you want in your life and your goals. You know, like I said, we all grow up in the same house, but that doesn't mean we all dream there. You know, it's like we grow up in the ghetto, but we don't have to dream in the ghetto. You know, and those who catch that in their journey or in the process of growing up are the ones that usually go far, because they want more. And even when you're trying to pass the baton, that person is not running fast enough to catch it because they're not sure of themselves yet. The one that's going to get it is the one that knows they want to get there. Right. And I think that's the reason why it gets dropped, because you know, a lot of people say they want this. A lot of people say they want to be successful, but they're not willing to do the work. Nope. You know, and it's a lot of work. You know that. I don't even know how you do your work. I mean, you're like the Energizer Bunny. I mean, she's gone from as soon as she stepped out of the bed, she's gone, because it's a lot of work, especially real estate. You know, agents get their license and think, oh, I'm going to hit the jackpot. I'm going to do this. And some get lucky, but this is a lot of work being in real estate. And it takes a lot of energy. It takes taking care of yourself. It takes understanding your market, keeping yourself educated on your clients and where you want to go in this business. So it's a lot of work, and that's why the baton is dropped. Right. A lot of people they say they want it, but they're not willing to do the work. And that's the hard part. You know,
the interesting thing about work, and I was having this conversation with a young man yesterday, and I was telling him, like, I told him, don't run away from the hard work, run towards the hard work, because that's where all the success is. I said, like, you might think that you're winning by like strategically finding a way to avoid the hard work, but it's going to bite you back in the end. 5 years, you're going to feel it. 10 years, you're going to feel it. And I feel like that's why Rashauna does what she does. That's what I do. That's why you do what you do, is because you realize like life after doing all this work is so great. It's so abundant.
Oh, it is. And you feel it around you, and people gravitate towards that. People want to hold on, and if you're moving and you're making moves and you're doing the right things, people gravitate towards that. And not only the people that need it, the people that want to help you.
Yeah.
They come from everywhere, and they start shepherding you to a higher plateau, to where you're going, because they see what you're doing. And they're like, okay, you know, we need to, and that's where the baton is grabbed, Ms. Rashauna. Right. The people that see what you're doing, they're saying, you know, we're going to pass this baton right here, because she's coming. She's going to be the one to grab it. And that's what it's about, you know, just understanding the work ethic, because it is hard work. I mean, we work all night. I come home sometimes, and my husband's like, I can't believe somebody's calling you at 10 o'clock at night. Well, money doesn't sleep. Okay. They're in Japan. They're awake while we're going to bed, you know, and you take stockbrokers. They're working on 3 different, you know, time zones. They wake up when we're going to sleep, because they have to talk to Japan, or they have to talk to Australia, or they have to talk to South Africa, you know, and people find that glamorous, but they're working. They're working, and they're working hard. And that's why they get to the top. And it's no different than real estate. You know, you have to work. And getting to the customer you want. I mean, you know, you have to grow into that space too, because you have to know what you're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it took me 10 years to grow into this space.
Wow.
I didn't just get here. You know, like I said, I didn't just get here. I was selling properties that are, you know, less than $100,000. But, you know, I kept going. And, you know, people would say to me, Jane, in your fifth year it's going to get easier. It didn't get easier in the fifth year. It got harder, you know, and even today it's still hard. I mean, I still hustle just like everybody else. I still get up 5, 6 o'clock in the morning, work out, eat right, go to work, be at my desk, you know, read the market reports, understand, try to figure out what I'm doing next as far as marketing is concerned. And with the social media, I mean, you have to be on your game. Mm-hmm. You know, and I think, to be honest with you, Charles, a lot of agents got disillusioned by these shows too, because these guys at the top that are doing it, yes, they are doing it, but it was a lot of hard work and a lot of backstory to them too. Mm. You know, and when you get to meet some of them and they tell you their story, you're like, oh, okay, so you are human. You are normal like us.
Yeah. And I think that's why when you made that point about growing into it, it was so profound, because you look at all these stories like the Josh Altmans or all those guys on TV, and we don't talk about like, oh, they started out like selling leases and they were leasing apartments, and now they are selling property in Beverly Hills. And we have a lot of people who want to just jump over the hard stuff. They want to jump over the little baby stuff like, oh, I'm investing in this little small market. And then I realized, like you said, you grow into it.
Right.
And so you got to take those baby steps. You got to take those steps to move forward, but you're still moving forward. You're still progressing. I have a question, and I did an interview with, I think his name is Stubblefield, and he bought like a 44-unit apartment complex, something along those lines. And I asked him, I said, how did you celebrate? He said, I didn't celebrate.
Oh, I get that. Excuse me one second. I need to turn. Okay. I think I'm going to lose you guys, so I don't want to do that.
Okay. I don't want that either.
All right. I might have some light behind me, but I'm sorry about that, guys. So
That's okay.
Okay.
My question is, what kind of mindset is it that you can do something so magnificent, so like groundbreaking, and like you don't celebrate, you just get back to work? What drives that?
Well, for me, with that one property, that one sale, it was exhausting. Like I said, they walked away 4 times. I was actually in Chicago. They walked away 4 times. At that point, I had a little arrogance about me. I thought, you know, and my customer, my seller, she was even more so. So, I was so exhausted, to be honest with you, Charles. When I came home, I just kind of went to bed. I did. I went to bed, and my husband's like, you're not going to celebrate? And I was like, no, I don't think that's something I want to do. This transaction was really difficult for me. And I remember sitting in the condo. Now, I want to give you the scenario. I'm sitting in the condo. I got there 8 o'clock in the morning. The day we're closing, I got there 8 o'clock in the morning. I sat in that condo till about 5 o'clock and did not move until an email came across my phone saying, we are finally closed.
Wow.
It was I had to decompress, because I sat there with so much fear of it not happening. And then taking that in and then saying to myself, okay, looking around this amazing place saying, wow, this is about to change my life, or everything can go down the drain. Everything that I know could happen after this won't happen. It was so exhausting. I went home and I went to bed. I got back up the next morning. I was in my office at 7:30 in the morning, pushing out what had just happened.
I love it. And
sharing with people, you know, and everybody was calling me from everywhere. The press was calling me, brokers were calling me, agents, and the agent that was on the other side of the deal was not a real pleasant person to work with. So the transaction was kind of, you know, back and forth. And I think, you know, having that happen all at once, I was just kind of still in shock. To be honest with you, I was just in shock. And like I said, it was a lot of fear building up to that, you know, knowing that it could, like I said, just go down the drain or change my life. And thank God it went the other way. So once I finished that transaction and it was closed and everything, my mindset was, I got to get in the office and do this all over again. Oh. This just can't be, something that just happened. This can't be luck.
Right.
I got to do this again. And I got to prove to my peers that I can do this again. And that was the mindset. So I went right back to work. Trying to get more listings, everybody was like, you're not going to go anywhere. You're not going to do anything. No, I wanted to see those numbers in my bank account, to be honest with you, because that was one of the biggest sales I had ever done in my life, to date. Mm. And anything less than that is still a bonus. You sell something for 7 million, sell something for 8 million, sell something for 4 million, you still think about that one big sale, right, and you wanted to come again, and then I had some disappointment too. I got a $22 million listing after that, and that was taken away from me. So here it is. I'm thinking my phone is going to start ringing off the hook. And this is where that comes into play too, a little bit, Rashauna. And I said to myself, I have to not think like that. Here it is. I'm an African-American female. Yeah, I'm a Black female. I'm in Naples, Florida. I'm one of the top agents in the city. And why isn't my phone ringing off the hook after that sale? Mm-hmm. When I know so many of my counterparts, my other colleagues, they do a sale like that, their phone rings off the hook. So of course, that starts getting in my head. I'm okay if I'm selling what they're selling, but when I'm selling better and bigger, is that okay as a Black female? So I had to start thinking, okay, don't go there, because when you start going there, you're going to start messing up. Mm-hmm. Don't worry about that. Just keep moving. So, from that day on, of course, I picked up other listings, 5 million, 7 million, 8 million, 4 million, 3 million. And I just picked up 6 other new listings now. And I took on another $30 million worth of listings just recently. Wow. But they have to sell, Charles. Mm-hmm. Doesn't mean anything if they don't sell, because what happens is, even as a listing agent, you're the boss. And that's what I try to tell people. When you become a listing agent and that's what you go after, that's what you go to, you find your client, you go and you present and you take on the listing, you become the boss. Everybody else works for you. All those buyers agents are bringing you the buyer. Mm-hmm. Your job is to market the property and get it out there so the traffic can get in the house. And that's what your job is as a listing agent. So no matter what happens, you still have to carry listings. So my job, to answer your question plainly, was to get back on the horse. Right. And go get more listings after that. I never celebrated. And I don't even know what that means. I just didn't. I just kept working. Yeah. Yeah.
So I know we have to wrap up soon. But I want to ask, we were having a conversation one day and you shared with me about your first encounter or your first exposure with luxury. And I've been, I don't know, maybe that's, my next thing that I'm going to come out with, Charles. Maybe that'll be the name of something I put out, is like expose, right? Because it keeps coming up in all of these episodes that we're doing, because I want more and more people to understand the importance of exposing people to what's possible, right? We say it all the time, like there are some people that all of us probably know who have never even left their own cities, right? And that's all they know. So I want you to share with us, is something about some girls you went to college with?
Yeah. My first exposure to luxury, and like I said in the beginning of this, even though you grow up, no matter where you grow up, that doesn't mean your dreams are there. And if they are, you better peel that all the way back and find out what makes you tick to stay there with those dreams. And if it's about your community and it's about, pushing people forward, then that's all well and fine. But you don't have to stay there or consider your dream to come to fruition in that one place. You must expose yourself to other people and other places, because this is a big world, and it's not only a big world, this is a huge country compared to other countries. Everything you need is right here in the good old USA, you know? So when I first went to college, I went to an all-girls school and predominantly white school. And my first exposure to luxury was taking a trip to Manhattan with some girlfriends of mine. And I remember walking into this building. I can't even recall the name of the building now, but it was on 55th Street, across the street from Mr. Childs. So I walk into this building, and at the bottom of the building, and this is my first like really big experience, they sold Rolls Royces and Mercedes. And I was just like, wait a minute, what is this? What's going on here? And here it is, you got me, little old Jane Bond, black girl from Southwest Philly, walking in with these girls. Again, the only black female, walking into this building, this beautiful high-rise, 30-story building, and we go up to the top floor, penthouse. Doors open to the penthouse, and I'm in awe, but, still staying really calm about everything, not showing that I'm in awe. And I see about 5 or 6 maids there, all dressed in pinafores. And I'm like, oh, so this is how they live. This is how the other half live, because this is nowhere near my reality. I live in a 4-bedroom house with 1 bathroom, and now I'm in college. But when I walked in there, I was blown away. And I'm speaking to this woman, talking about life and trying to be an adult, and she doesn't even speak English. She's talking to the maids in another language. And lo and behold, this one girl that we went to her house, she was Turkish, and she took us there, and I go out with them the night, and I meet her aunt, and her aunt is Bill Blass's first assistant. And this is more money than I've ever seen in my life. The cars, the homes, just the service waiting on me as a young girl being in there and looking around and seeing statues and artwork, and now in retrospect, old masters on the wall. That was my first exposure at 19, 18 with these girls, and being blown away, and that staying in my mind. And saying, wow, I was able to hang and stay with them, because they didn't ask me to leave after that. I was still there, and being with one, her father was he was a big game hunter. What do I know about that? The only big game we have is dogs in our neighborhood. So, I don't know anything about this stuff. So I'm totally blown away, and I'm seeing things. So of course I just started doing homework, looking at magazines. Now I'm engrossed in magazines. Now I'm understanding what these paintings are. I'm talking to them. I'm asking a lot of questions because I want to know. And that was my first exposure, just being in the right place at the right time, being exposed to that, just going. I could have said, no, I couldn't go. And not see that, because we were all at school. At school, we were all the same. Some had better shoes, better, clothing than we did, but pretty much we were all the same. We were just students. But to go to their homes and see their homes, my roommate, her father was president of Campbell Soup Company. So it's being in the right place at the right time and a little bit of luck.
Right.
And that was my exposure. And by meeting those young ladies, and becoming friends with them for, the years I was there, I learned a hell of a lot. And they took me to places that I probably would have never been able to go to on my own, or had fear about going into them because of who I was at the time. But being with them, and now that I look back on it, they wanted me with them more than I wanted to be with them. Whether it was, the new black girl or the token girl that was with us, I was open to it because I wanted to learn. I wanted to be exposed. I wanted to understand. And that's how it started.
Awesome.
Yeah, being around those girls.
So I have 4 last questions that I ask every guest. I'm going to ask them to you. They're just really quick in and out questions.
Okay.
The first question is, what is your best real estate advice?
Educate yourself. Educate yourself on your market. Know your market inside and out, because what you don't know, the next agent will. And you'll definitely miss that listing or that sale.
And I want to add to that, even in regards to investing, right? Like your market doesn't even have to be where you live or anything like that. I think just understanding and knowing your market, it's essential.
Definitely. Because I can't afford to invest here. This is some big real estate here. We don't even have multiplexes here. We don't have that. We don't have we have a few townhouses, period. But we don't have, like, I went to look for a triplex. I went to look for a quadplex. I couldn't find it. And when I did, it was an exorbitant amount of money for nothing.
Right.
And you didn't even want to, I'm the type of person, I need to be proud of what I purchased. Some people can buy something and just say, give me the check. No, I need to know that the people, I don't know. It's just the thing about me. I need to know that the people that are going to live in where I purchase are safe. I need to know that they're living a clean life there, because it's a representation of me. And it's not all about the check for me. So I might be a little different than some, but I know there's a lot of me out there that feel the same way. I need to be proud of what I purchase.
What is your favorite business book?
I think my favorite business book, and I would recommend that to a lot of young people, is Question to Be Questioned, and 7 Levels of Communication.
Nice. I've never heard of either of those. So that's good. We can add that to the list.
Yeah. The Question Behind the Question is really a good book, because it talks about how people push issues onto others. They find fault, as opposed to owning up to the responsibility. They'll say, well, she didn't do her job, so that made it so I couldn't do mine, as opposed to just taking whatever needs to be done and doing it. So the question behind the question is, why didn't you just execute it?
Right. Love it.
And then 7 Levels of Communication is a really good book, I would say, for young agents coming out, because it shares with them how to go about marketing themselves, just in the smallest ways that grow into this huge thing.
Awesome. Who is somebody that you look up to, and why?
I look up to my mom more so than anybody, because she had the strength and energy to take on a family after losing her significant other, her husband, early on. And she was really scared of that, but she did it. And she made sure we all did what we had to do, as far as raising my sisters and my siblings and their children, and staying true to the family and keeping that sense of wholeness. And I guess the second person I would look up to would be Oprah. That's my girl. She speaks volumes to us. But my mom and my dad, they're my gods.
Right. I feel like with Oprah, there's so much that we don't know. And I'll never forget, I saw that quote where she said something about where she was working the job and she saw that, like, the guy got a bigger check than her. And she was like, I'm going to own the show so I can determine who gets what check. And I thought that was
okay.
We never talk about that. We just talk about, oh, she's rich. Like, well, why is she rich? And why can't you do exactly what she did? Because we can. So,
or better yet, when you see a problem, don't just complain about it.
Exactly.
What are you going to do to get ahead of it, to be at the forefront of, to be the decision maker?
That's the question behind the question.
Right.
That's the question behind the question. Oprah said something the other day. She said when she was starting her network, her I believe it was her attorney or a really good friend of hers said to her, don't take a paycheck. Don't take a paycheck. Take part of the company.
Yeah.
And she said that was the best advice anybody could have ever gave her. She said she stopped taking the paycheck and she started taking the dividends. I said, you better work, Oprah. Boom, right? Next thing you know, she owned it.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's profound. I mean, who comes out with OWN Network and knowing that that stands for her name, Oprah Winfrey Network? I mean,
Network.
Anything she touches turns to gold.
Right. It's like Beyonce. It's the same
and I think it comes from her promoting others. And another thing is when she, back in, I think it was the early 90s, when she realized, she was using her platform the wrong way when she had those skinheads on her show, how she talked about that, how the light bulb went off in a big way. And I think she was having a conversation with Gary Zukav, and she said, I understood, and it was so profound the way it happened. She said she was sitting there interviewing this guy, one of the skinheads, and she said she realized she was using her platform in the wrong way. She was giving voice to this negative energy, to this hate, to this evilness that they were putting out there. And she said from that day on, she realized she will never do that again. She's going to use her platform to give good information out, good advice, positive energy, and leave all that negativity away, because you can have a platform and you could utilize that platform for the wrong things. And if you have the wrong people on there, spewing out just bad messages, then what does that make you?
Awesome. My last question is, what does wealth mean to you?
What does wealth mean to me? Being able to take care of my family, being able to share, being able to do anything I want to do as far as being financially fit is concerned. I mean, wealthy means a lot of things across the board. I'm wealthy in health. Thank God I'm good that way. I'm wealthy with family. I'm wealthy with friends. I equate being wealthy to being successful and getting up, being able to do whatever I want to do each and every day and opening my eyes and being grateful for that. That's wealthy to me.
Very cool.
Because I always say it's not about the money that's in your pocket. That's not it. Because that comes. You do the work, that comes no matter what. If you worry about it, it never comes. If you just do the work, before you know it, you got it all.
That's true.
Do the work.
Man. Any last words, Rashauna Scott?
No. Nope. This is great.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. I'm feeling really full right now. You gave us so much, and so much wisdom, right? Like we have a lot. Well, I know Charles has had a lot of different age ranges on the show. Mm-hmm. But I think the wisdom that you were able to give and like your early experiences early on, like my hope is that people take, obviously your success, like that's all we have to do, right? Is follow the blueprint. Find somebody successful and figure out how they did it, period. Mm-hmm. And I don't care what industry you're in. The great thing is that you gave so many jewels and gems that you can replicate that, in whatever industry. Right. So just a matter of showing up, saying yes to opportunities. Like say you say yes, saying yes to opportunities. Mm-hmm. And then when you walk away from those opportunities and it was something that you liked, you're like, okay, this feels good. This feels right. I'm gonna move with that. I'm gonna research that. I'm gonna Google it. That now you can Google and YouTube
anything.
And so just leaning in and saying yes and going for it. And like you said, doing the work. So many gems will drop. So thank you so much for being on the show.
Absolutely. And guys, I want you to know I have a podcast out now. It's called The Jane Bond Show. And you can find it on Spotify. You can find it on Apple. You can find it on Anchor. And it's called The Jane Bond Show, From Execution to Excellence, because that's what it's all about. That's what we talked about today, being able to execute and then get to that place you want to be. Most of the time it's in a place of excellence. A lot of people look for it in a place of finances. You make that choice. But like we said, you got to be open, open to opportunity.
Awesome. Thank you again. She said thank you. I'm saying thank you. I definitely learned a ton. Where can people follow you on social media? Where can they find your website? Where can they support what you're doing?
Well, you can find me on social media. At my Instagram handle is at Lifestyle Living with Jane Bond. My website is www.thebondbrightgroup.com. You can find me on LinkedIn as Jane Bond TBG. You can find me on Facebook, Jane Bond TBG.
Awesome. So thank you guys all for tuning in. This is episode number 108. My name is Charles Ogilvie. You can find us on www.capitaltide.com. You can also find us on Instagram at Tide Investments or at Tide Millionaire. Check out the store. Support the show at www.gumroad.com/Tide Capital. My name is Charles Ogilvie with Rashauna Scott for episode number 108, signing off.
See you guys later.
Thank you.